Hello out there, and welcome to the Danny.
And Riana show. This is Danny, Rihanna's husband.
And this is Riana, Danny's wife. And today we're going to sort of zoom out a little bit from our usual perspectives as gaming content creators and reviewers. We're going to try to consider sort of the broader view of what gamers are really looking for. And this is not necessarily trying to dictate what people should do, but more just us reading the tea leaves and seeing the sentiments across all the channels that we watch and monitor and giving a wrap up of sorts, like what we think is going on and what would really help people out right now. So I think it would be a good idea to maybe just kind of start with how we're feeling as consumers because
Mhm.
Danny, you and I have talked about this a lot lately, especially with a new little baby in the picture. It's really rough out here.
Yeah, actually, I was having this conversation with a couple folks that people usually will get to see like, hey, how's the movie industry is doing, right? So, like, let's say a movie like Furiosa that just came out like a
This is
couple
Mad
days ago.
Max Furiosa.
Yeah, Mad Max. Yeah, it's part of the saga and everything. But yeah, it came out a couple days ago, and it only made, I think, maybe 31 million over the weekend. And this movie, I think the budget was like really high. It was like over 100 something $1 million. I think it was like 130, I think it was. And people calling it a flop. So once that news came out, there was a lot of discussions like, why are people not going to the movies? Are they just waiting for the movie to come out digital so people could rent it, or maybe it will be available on a streaming service? Like, for example, Fall Guy came out. I remember this was at the theater, got decent reviews, and it was already digital after 3 weeks. So like the industry was kind of mad, like the movie industry in general, like, hey, why would they release this so quick? But then the audience is like, oh man, I can find this, watch this at home. I don't have to go to the movies. Meanwhile, the movie's expensive. So I think the conversation of that, right? And plus now with games, games being $70, not knowing a lot of young folks don't know this, but in the 90s, games was even more expensive. There was like all over the place from like 90, $100, all that stuff. But now it's different. I think now people are being very cautious on like what to buy, where to go, if it's movies or just hang out, at home
Or vacations,
or
trips, things like
vacation.
that.
Yeah. People are trying to save money as much as possible. A lot of us, we have a lot of bills,
Hmm.
family. People are being really careful about that. I'm not saying not to do anything. It's do whatever you want with your money, but I think people are just being more smart on the things that they're gonna do with their money from now on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to call it out, like you have, right? Like folks are squeezed right now. There's obviously a lot of economic tension in the United States, country we reside in, and other places as well. And a lot of folks are feeling that their future is uncertain, right? Like it's really difficult to depend on job stability the way we used to be able to. Older generations could stay in the same role and retire and get a pension, and they're guaranteed to consistently move up or at least maintain their position for years, maybe decades. We don't have that certainty anymore. And so it's really tough to, look at your discretionary income and think, okay, let me do every single thing I'm interested in when there's just so much stuff to consume, right? Like we have all kinds of streaming services. There is still traditional cable out there. Some people still have it. We have
Hmm.
cell phone bills and internet lines, and we're all subscribed to these different services now. And if a gaming subscription is in there, if it's not, then your hobby is even more expensive and you're buying individual titles. Like it can really add up, and it's tough when the cost of living is going up and up and up as well. And Danny, you and I are homeowners. Not many people in our age ranges have that capability, and it's really difficult to justify casual spending
Hmm.
when basic necessities like food or like eggs, like gas, like flour, like whatever it is you need to buy are just constantly increasing. And it doesn't seem like there's any end in near sight for the continuous inflation of prices and the things to keep creeping up on us and under this you know larger umbrella of capitalism that we we can go down that road in another episode. But all of that to say, stuff costs a lot. People don't have as much as they would like, and they got to be really choosy. And I've actually seen there's been studies and different questionnaires done where people are even taking their subscription services on and offline as they have things that come out that they're interested in. So they'll, let's say you have a Hulu and a Paramount Plus and a Netflix and a Disney, and you have Hulu and Disney for these months, and then you take them off whenever those releases are done. And then you have Paramount Plus for whatever that season of show that you're looking for. And then maybe you jump into Netflix, but only when the next Bridgerton drops. So it's people trying to be conscientious of their spending, which they should. But at the end of the day, when it comes to video games, the price of games, as you said, Danny, has not really gone up over the years. It's been $70 for a premium game for a long time, and the cost of making games has continued to rise. And while there are obviously many practices across the gaming industry, especially the AAA space, which are not very sustainable and not the fault of the people who are making the choices to create the games, the people who are selling them are not raising the prices, and the industry is suffering because of that. So at the end of the day, what do you do?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's different things you could do, and it also depends what type of console you have. So, like for example, if you have Nintendo Switch, what options you have is either buy the game or just wait until the prices go down, right? But
Which is
if you
not
have,
as easy with Nintendo because they are known to create false scarcity, and they don't really do many sales compared to other platforms, so it's tough.
hmm yeah, but let's say you have Xbox subscription, then you have an option to download multiple games using Xbox Game Pass, which is available on console and also PC. And here's another thing too, Reem. There is still people to this day. They have the original Xbox One,
Yeah.
the last console from last generation, and people are subscribed using the Xbox Game Pass, right? But what they're doing is playing new Xbox Series X and S games through the cloud using that old console because they're
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna spend that much money to buy a new console. I could still play these games, and plus I can still get those games that's still available. There's on Game Pass. There's also available on Xbox One. And now let me go back to because I think recently it was announced that Black Ops 6, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is coming out later this year, but it's also releasing on the older consoles, which is
Mhm.
Xbox One and PlayStation 4. The majority of players still play those old consoles. They don't plan to buy the new ones because they can still play. Look, that crowd, a lot of them, they play maybe like a couple games a year that they'll buy, like maybe 2 games a year, maybe sometimes even one, and that's it. Because that's if they invest $60-$70, that's like a whole year plus, even more. You know what I'm
Yeah, it
saying?
can
So
be depending on the
yeah.
game.
So I mean, that's one option. Another option, what I mentioned about Xbox Game Pass, like for example, Call of Duty, it is going to be available on Game Pass for the first time there this year. So that's another way where maybe you pay for a month, like you said, Reed. Maybe change it around. Maybe pay monthly. Maybe you want to try it out and stuff like that. But I think that's another way for you to save money. There's also other ways where people have done it too for streaming services. Like they'll have like a family pack, or they buy one service and they'll share with other people. Like there's different ways how to save money. It's getting really really complicated, and I think now I think Disney and a couple other companies they're cutting that off. Like if you're still sharing with other people, they're like, well, if you want to share,
Mhm.
you need to pay an additional money, or the account is not gonna it's not gonna work anymore. So
Yeah, that's tough.
it's
And
complicated.
if
Yeah,
you have a PlayStation, there's PS Plus, there's Ubisoft, there's what
EA
Epic Games
Play.
Store, EA Play, like there's so many
hmm
different game subscription and streaming services, just like there's so many movie and TV streaming services. So like you said, it's
hmm
so complicated these days. And if we're talking about, sort of like the main point of this conversation of like what are people looking for, what gamers really want, I think right now more than anything, they want simplicity. If you tell a customer like, hey, you pay $10 a month here, $5 there, 6 here, another 12 over there, and then you can play this game sometimes, but then if you're in this country, you can't play this other game, looking at Helldivers too. And if
Hmm.
you're in this other place, then you have a whole different library, but maybe you could VPN and get all of them, and that's complicated and a lot of people don't even know how it works, and you have to sign up for another service in order to get a VPN. It gets really confusing. And if you're the
Hmm.
average person with the average amount of time and energy and the average amount of money, wouldn't it be easier if you could say, hey, you pay $25 and you can play X, Y, and Z, and that's it? But I don't see a very clear one stop shop, one step solution for people that gives that simplicity. And so we're forced to navigate this, you know, cacophony of services in order to play different experiences. And we can maybe take a second to talk about exclusives, because that landscape is changing right now. Because again, people who are locked into one console or one ecosystem want to play other things that may be exclusive to another ecosystem. And it's really a disservice to, at the end of the day, the people making the game if it's withheld from this widest possible audience, because so many people can't make the choice to play every single console, right?
Yeah, but also another thing we forgot to mention too, Ree. There's a lot of free to play games where
That's
people
true.
have
Yeah.
been enjoying that, and they don't care whatever comes out retail. They don't care. They rather just play Apex Legends. Fortnite is still
Fortnite,
strong. Still strong.
Roblox. Yeah.
Roblox. There's also a Warzone, right? I think there's a couple other ones too. Like I think just recent now, X Defiant. I've got the jersey right here. That's a free to play game.
Yeah.
People play that, and you can still play that also on the old consoles. You don't need to do that.
A
You
lot
don't
of
need
those
to
you can
get
play on
a
your phone. You don't even
on
need
your
a
phone or
console at all.
tablet or
Or
tablet too.
tablet, yeah.
Yeah,
And granted, not everybody has a phone, but I mean that's even an easier sell, right? Because it's more common than any of these consoles we're talking about. But
yeah.
again, like, I go back to the point that I'll throw to you, Danny. Like,
Hmm.
what is it that you think people are looking for when it comes to game exclusivity, and like what would be the best for the gamers?
Man, the best thing right now is confident. Like, is the game pretty good? A lot of back then, when I was growing up, a lot of people will just read the magazines and see, hey, is this game is getting a good review or not before buying the game. Back then was a little bit more harder because it's like you have to wait once a month for a magazine to come out, and now within minutes you see all types of reviews, old and new, of different games, through YouTube or social media, even TikTok, like, short form content. So I think people are being more picky than ever on like, is this is pretty good or not? I'm not saying not to read like the major media outlets, but I think people are being like a lot smarter of like, okay, is this game gonna be worth my money paying 40 to 70 bucks or even more sometimes if you want to get like early access, which a lot of companies have been doing that now. Like for example, I think Call of Duty have done that where the
Yeah, you
game
can play
comes
six
out
days early with
6 day early. You pay like $100 something
yeah.
for that amount, and you get it early. I think Forza Horizon, they've done that too.
Hmm.
So people are just being more picky, and I don't blame them because
Well, how does that
sometimes
enter the conversation where with exclusives though? Like what
it
are
was
people
well
looking
with
for when it comes
that's
to
what I was
that?
about to say. With exclusives, you know, it's what I said in the beginning: confidence. And is it worth investing that money? So people want to see, is the game going to be good for them to invest that money? So like, for example, the conversation that we were seeing a lot was Hellblade. For me, I really like that game. It's an exclusive for Xbox, right? I think that they've been promoting this for a while now. Back in 2019, that was like the first time we got to see that.
Hmm.
So the game comes out and the discussion is like, okay, is it worth paying 40 bucks or 50 bucks for that game? But the game is only 8 hours long. Some people want a longer game. Not all games are going to be like that. So that's a conversation. It's an exclusive, but is it long? Is it good for one player? Some people want to have multiplayer. They don't care about single player games. Like Call of Duty comes every year. There's people that even play the campaign. They just strictly go to the multiplayer, and that's it. So I think when I say confidence, also is the companies being very consistent on releasing good games. For me, Nintendo been doing a really great job on releasing games that is for me. It's not for everybody. That I feel confident to go to the store or maybe their eShop to buy the game. Or some people feel the same way about PlayStation. So it all depends on that. I think it's more about confidence, because if there's no, let's say the company's been releasing stuff that's not consistent. So a lot of them are bad. Maybe once in a while you see a good game here and there. People are gonna be like, they're gonna either wait until there's like a sale, right? During like the holiday season, let's say Black Friday, which a lot of people do. Or maybe sign up to a subscription service, PlayStation Plus or Xbox, which is a lot easier to take that risk of downloading those AAA exclusive games and stuff like that.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting split, and I think a lot of folks in the industry are looking to define what percentage of folks land on either side when
Mm-hmm.
it comes to what gamers or the audience is looking for with exclusives, because you have folks on one side who would like to play whatever they want to play no matter what system they have, right? They've made an investment in this piece of hardware or a PC or even their phone, which is an investment, and they want to be able to play a game without any strings attached, right? Without the complication. Again, we're going back to simplicity. But then there's
Mm-hmm.
another group of people who, I'm not sure how large of a group this is, but they're very vocal, especially on Twitter, about wanting things to stay exclusive and wanting things to be only available on a platform that they prefer
Mm-hmm.
for, I guess, what they think is like the longevity of the brand of the hardware, which is an interesting argument. And I can see how at one point in time that is how things worked, right? You would see Call of Duty co-branded with Xbox, and so people bought more Xboxes. And then you see Call of Duty co-branded with PlayStation, and people buy more PlayStations. Sure,
Mm-hmm.
that is how things could work at a point in time. But now that doesn't seem to be driving hardware sales the same way it used to, because I think, maybe to your point, people aren't as confident in these exclusives as they used to be, right? Like, there are some that are fantastic. Like, you see your Horizons, you see your God of Wars, like you see your Final Fantasies. But if those games are stellar and they sell gangbusters but are only allowed to be sold to one platform's audience, it's hard for them to make their money back. And as we
Mm-hmm.
said before, games are more expensive than ever to make. And there are so many people losing their livelihoods who are creating quality work. And if it's because a game is not as financially successful as whoever decided it should be, it's really the setup, right? Like they're set up to fail. And it's a shame, right? Like it would be better for the people making the games, and it'd be better for the people who want to play them if anybody can buy it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
Yeah.
what do you think about the split between things? We should still have exclusivity to drive, walled gardens that have people feel like they're investing in their own platform, but also making sure that games are available as widely as possible to make their money.
Here's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned Square Enix with Final Fantasy, because that's an exclusive for PlayStation. And I think the Final Fantasy Rebirth and also the remake both came out on PlayStation. Then a year later, I think for the remake game, that came out for PC, but no Xbox, no Nintendo Switch. But guess what? Remake made a lot of money during that time. There was a lot of users with PlayStation 4. Now with PlayStation 5, it's been kind of weird the past couple of years. Like, we see the numbers of like a phenomenal game like Ratchet and Clank,
Mm-hmm.
Returnal, and so
Award-winning
on.
games.
Award-winning games, and those numbers are not that big. Now, recently with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Square Enix said, "Hey, look, we didn't make our money. I think for them right now, they decided to release games multi-platform because it doesn't make sense to keep it that one game on one console because again, like you said, is we're in a different time more than ever where companies need to make decisions where we're putting so much money but they're not getting much in return, so we need to make these decisions. And now you have, you see layoffs and all this stuff because
Yeah.
of those decisions of having those game exclusive, right? But if you have a game like, Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, that's been out now for over a while now, right?
Yeah.
It's okay
Years,
to release that
some of them.
on other
Mhm.
platforms. Like, I see that's a good thing because, back then, I didn't have much money to buy every single game back in the days of like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, those days, right? I had to be trading with friends, like, hey, you have that game, I'll give you mine. So let's trade. Like, it was a lot easier for me to, talk to my friends. Let's do some trading. Now there's games that come out, but there's no physical. Now it's all digital, so
Yeah.
you can't be trading games like that. You can even go to the store to buy a used game. More like for the most recent games, things are changing. Companies are making decisions that it's going to affect everyone, and I just want people to prepare themselves because we're going to see more of this in the future. This that we got to see recently, a couple months ago, with Sea of Thieves and Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, all those games that it's Xbox exclusive, but now it's coming out in other platforms. We're gonna see more of that. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the most recent one, Hellblade, in the future, maybe a year, 2 years from now on PlayStation. And guess what? That's okay because I love that game. I love the studio. The dev team made an amazing game, and I want them to succeed. One thing, Reed, before we continue, I was at Dice and we were having this conversation, with different developers that they're part of the industry for a while now about Xbox releasing games multi-platform, and they were like, you know what? The developers I had the conversation I had at Dice, they were like, I would like to see that more, man. I wish more people could play our games that we
Yeah.
worked on for a very long time. The
Of
more,
course.
the
Of
better.
course they want more people to play their games.
Exactly. The more, the better. I think the the people that are, you know, freaking out and not agreeing with this move is a very small percentage of people because the
Mhm.
average person doesn't even know that Xbox made that decision. They don't know. The majority of people don't know.
Yeah, I think in kind of tying into the next point, what people do know is that when there's a huge boom and all of a sudden there's more people playing the game that they love already, right? So,
Mhm.
um, we've seen this with Fallout recently because we've talked on the show about the Fallout TV series, which huge fans here, and that show brought so many people to the Fallout games, and I'm talking multiple Fallout games, right? Like you're
Mhm.
seeing Fallout 76, you're seeing Fallout 4, you're seeing Fallout Shelter, the mobile game, like blowing up in the charts and people finding it for the first time or going back to it and seeing what's been updated and what's new and optimized and feels and plays better. You're seeing like whole communities pop up around these games that maybe tried it a little bit and then fell off and now they've come back to it or they've never even played a Fallout game in their lives. And it's really exciting to see these games that people have poured their hearts into over the years,
Mhm.
get another breath of fresh air. And that's only possible when you allow a community to really rally around a game. And the best way to build a community around a game is to make sure it's as big as possible, right? And
Mhm.
don't cut people off before they get a chance to find something. And I think
Exactly.
I fall into the camp of more is more, right? I don't hate exclusivity by any means. I think there are times and places where it makes sense, financially or structurally or for the resourcing. But the more people who can play a game, the better for everybody involved, if it's possible. And, why not just welcome everybody to the party? At the end of the day, whoever's holding the keys, gets to collect all the door passes and, gets their coins for all of the work of hosting the party. But
Mhm.
everybody there is having a great time, and it increases the energy around it. It increases the sales overall, increases the momentum, which is really what it takes these days to sort of rise above all the noise. Like we saw the success of Helldivers, despite it being a Sony exclusive. It is also on PC, as you mentioned. And people got so excited about that, right? Like even the
Mm-hmm.
fact that PC players are playing with PlayStation folks, and that there's this online community that's really fun, and they're sharing memes and saying for democracy, and you have bug accounts tweeting like, oh, I don't like Helldivers, they're killing too many bugs in that game. Like it's fun, and you don't really get that when you cut the audience in half or in a third, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
not as many people talking about the cool thing that's going on. So I hope that we see more of the keys being sort of passed around and more people invited to the party. Of course, it's not always feasible. I get that, but I don't see it as a bad thing by any means if it's what we need to do to keep this industry sustainable. And ultimately that's what we would like, and it's not happening very well right now. So if that's a way to
Mm-hmm.
do it, then I say go for it. And honestly, it's maybe controversial, but while we're at it, games should probably not only be $70 if you're buying it full retail. Like
Yeah,
it's ridiculous to think that the price of a movie ticket has gone up 150%,
but here's the
and
thing.
games haven't increased a dollar.
But here's the thing. A lot of people don't look at the schedule. But if you go early on depending on the day, the
Okay, yeah,
movies
sure.
will be very cheap. But people don't
Well,
see
okay,
that.
a
They just
matinee,
see
sure. And there's
matinee. Yeah,
discounted ways to get games too. I understand
yeah,
that. But
yeah.
but honestly, like this incredible hobby that we are a part of and that we
Mm-hmm.
enjoy, and this process that is like damn near magic, right? Game development is unreal. And I don't mean that as a pun for the engine. Like it's truly unbelievable what people can make,
Mm-hmm.
that we are able to just pick up our phone and just play, or pick up a PlayStation controller, or pick up a mouse and keyboard and just play.
I could
Uh,
play right now. I could
it-
play right
It's
now.
it's it's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And I personally want to see the people who make that possible get to eat and support their families. And,
Yeah.
and if it means that we pay a little bit more for the hobby that we've chosen to enjoy, I would do it. And I know a lot of people would. I know it's not possible for everybody, but if we're forced to live in this world where we have all of these different subscription models thrown in our faces at every possible turn for every form of entertainment we could possibly want, whether it's music or books or TV or movies or games, let's at least make it a livable profession for people.
You know what? That one thing I want to bring up before we wrap it up is one thing I've been noticing is how companies market not only their games but also like music and movies. Previously, and it all depends on the game and the movie and music too. So like let's say for the gaming side, back in the days, I remember companies would promote the game for like a year, announce it, show a lot of clips,
Yeah.
promote it. Nowadays, because of the attention span, because there's so much content, there's so much stuff going on that people will forget easily. Now companies are promoting something in a couple weeks before the release of the game,
Mm-hmm.
in different ways. Billboard, maybe just promoting different like social media sites and stuff like that, or maybe have like a big ad on TV if there's like a sporting event that's like that has like a lot of big ratings and stuff like that, right? With music, just today, like I was just reading that Eminem is releasing an album very very soon, right? So his first single is coming out this Friday. It's called Houdini. I think it's Houdini. Yeah. So I bet you his album is not gonna be coming out like in 2-3 months. That's like very very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes like artists like that you like, Beyonce, she just released an album
Yeah, no
on the
promo.
spot, no promo, because the fans will promote it. It will get
Yes.
trend.
The community
The
is
community will trend it.
your
Yeah.
marketing. And
Yes. Yep.
it's such a huge shift that I don't think everybody's really caught on to it.
Hmm.
And I've actually been thinking about this a lot recently, and there's the large discussion of like what gamers are looking for. What a lot of companies have picked up on, or a lot of these games that are free to play or low cost, and you have cosmetics and different things you can buy within the game to keep the profit flowing.
Hmm.
They look for what they call whales, right? The handful of people, the small percentage that are spend a lot of money in a game, and the majority of people don't spend a ton, but they're just there for the fun. But what
Hmm.
I think a lot of developers and publishers don't realize is that whales can't swim without water. Like, you can't have some people who are super invested in something that will be your champions and your main cheerleaders without the backup, right? Without the water for them to swim in, without the community to support the thing that makes it cool to spend money in it. Like nobody's going to
Hmm.
spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in, yes, some people do, in a game if no one else is playing it, right? Like, you
Hmm.
don't do that on your own. You do that because there's a large community and it's exciting and it makes you happy and it gives you an escape, or it gives you some other way to see the world, and you want to invest in that. Like, that is what makes something successful these days, is a community behind it. Like, you don't get this many seasons of Bridgerton without the community behind it. Like, you don't get, this kind of reaction to, Helldivers changing their PSN requirements on Steam, because if without a community reacting to the news and the change, like that, there's something to be said for how powerful a community is and how important it is to be invested in, and how important it is for it to be taken seriously, but not like allow it to bully a developer or publisher into making decisions that aren't good for them long term, right? Like
Hmm.
community management is just so tricky and so important, and I would love to see community managers getting more respect and more autonomy to do what they're really, really good at, and to not be thrown to the wolves anytime something goes wrong, and doxxed and threatened and then fired. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the work that they do is so important and so critical to this industry, and it is the future of this industry. I truly believe that. And I'm very passionate about it, so I'm getting a little emotional, so I'll back off. But
Yeah.
community management is just, it cannot be overlooked, and it's so important to marketing. It's so important to the longevity of everything that we
Hmm.
do. And that's either in entertainment or in life. The community is so important. It's been important to us and our ability to thrive, the community we've built around ourselves and our life and our family. And we should all be really mindful of that and try to be more conscientious of how we're reflect in the community in our own spaces. So I think at the end of the day, what I'm looking for as a gamer are positive communities, things that are fun, things that are easy. I like
Hmm.
to play games with other people. It's how I connect to other people. There are definitely single player games that I like to vibe out to, and escape and disconnect from the world. But truthfully, I'm looking for something that gives me energy and doesn't take it away. And
Hmm.
that's been my pie in the sky for gaming's
Hmm.
experiences this recent few years.
Yeah, for me, I just been picky with what I'm gonna buy. Like just today, I bought the Rogue Prince of Persia game,
Yeah,
early access, very cheap. Also, Hades, a couple weeks ago too. Like, I love single player games. I'll play multiplayer, but man, I just like you said, Ree, I just want to zone out and just vibe,
sure.
not worry about what other teammates are doing in a match. I think there's a time and place for that. But discovering indie games or going back to old games like Fallout, like after watching the Fallout series, man, that made me
Hmm.
want to go and download the game. There's people
You
that have
and
never played
millions of
it.
other people.
Yeah, they bought it. It was very cheap,
Yeah,
and they took advantage of that. Got to play the game and everything like that. So yeah, I just want to say that I think for us we should just be a lot smarter on what type of things we're planning to like invest our money and our time. Just be
yeah,
smart. Do your research. Don't just spend money just because it's a new release of your favorite brand. Be smart about it because let me tell you,
yeah.
money is getting tight, man. So, but yeah, but I think this was a great conversation we had, Ree, about this overall, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's lots of other breakout conversations that we could have maybe down the line if we have the energy for it, about gaming journalism falling falling
Yeah.
away, and
Mm-hmm.
true critical media not being invested in by the audience. And there's a lot of reasons why it's getting harder and harder to support a hobby that we really love. So
Agreed.
like you said, be smart with your money, try to invest in things that bring you joy, and do the best that you can to support things when you don't have the funds to do so.
Mm-hmm. Now, anything else, Ree, before we wrap it up?
That's it. I mean, I'm glad I have Hades, and I'm glad we have Exdefiant. A little bit of
Hey,
both worlds.
thanks for finding right here. Free to play game. Free to play game. No, I just want to say, everybody, thank you so much for watching our videos. Especially our last episode did pretty good, like the
Yeah, that
numbers and
was
stuff.
awesome.
Because we usually don't look at the numbers like that. Like, we're like, hey, we just love to record, and we
Yeah.
just want to get support from people. But what we love to see is feedback, comments. People posting on like different podcast platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Just post a review, comments, anything about the show. Tell us
Yeah.
maybe topics that you would like for us to talk about too. That would be really great. We get like submissions from our community of listeners. So I've been having a great time just having different conversations. It's very different from our current gaming shows. This is like a
Yeah.
different thing.
It's a
I'm
nice
enjoying it.
excuse for us to have an adult conversation that's not about baby Tylenol or diapers or wet wipes.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Very much. But now, everyone, thank you so much for watching. And we'll be back next week with more content. And actually,
What'll
man,
be Summer Game Fest episode?
summer. I think we should do a Summer Game Fest episode before Summer Game Fest, right? We should do that.
Before the madness.
Oh my God, it's going to be wild. But everyone, thank you for watching or listening to the show. Until next time, we're out.
Bye.